Welcome to another lecture. In this lecture, we are going to learn how we can create animator controller to manage different states for our animations, be it 2D or be it 3D. We can create and use the same animator controller for animation different types. We are going to create an animator controller in this lecture, and we will learn how different states go from one to another and how we can create different parameters and make them as conditions to change different animation states. First of all, let's create an animator controller. Go to create, and here down we have an animator controller. Let's give it a name, anim controller or animctrl. Now let's double click on it and it will open a new tab. Here you can see that we have a base layer area and we have a layers tab over here and a parameters tab over here. The parameters list shows over here and it's now empty. The base layer shows that all the states inside the base layer or the selected layer. Then we have a plus button to create new layers. We can click on the setting icons to change the mask, the blending, the sync, or the IK pass. Then we can go to our parameters list and add new float, integer, bool, or trigger parameter. We can change its name and we can change its value as well. We can add all sorts of parameters and use them as conditions later on for our states changing. We can also set the values of these parameters from here. Now let's go to our basic layer. Here you can see we have three different states. First is entry point, then we have exit point, and then we have an any state. First of all, let's just create a new empty state from this little menu. We can copy and create a substate machine, or we can create an empty state from here, or we can form a new plain tree. As soon as we created a new state, it added the transition from entry point to our state because it's the only state right now we have. We can also make a transition from any state to our new state or any other state inside our layer. Next, if you select any given state, you will see the transition attached to it, or if you select the transition, you can edit it or change it, or you can even select it and hit the delete button to delete it. Next, let's select the state and see what we have. We have a motion which is set to none. It's basically the animation file, and then we have the speed of our animation. Then we have a normalized time parameter. Then we have a mirror. Then we have cycle offset, foot IK, right defaults. Then we have the list of our transitions, which currently is shown as empty. Then we can also add behaviors to our states, same way we add components to our game objects. Let's just click on add behavior to add a behavior to our state. Let's give it some name. Let's say main behavior. Now click enter and it will create a new script for us. Now let's double click this script to open it up in Visual Studio and see what's inside this script. Now you can see there are a bunch of override functions that are being commented over here. First is on state enter, then we have on state update. All of these functions are called on these state update or enter or respective functions. For example, state exit. This one is called on state move, or this one is called on state IK. We can write any script inside it and it will be called on the state transition. Let's create another state and make a transition from this state to that. Now you will see that we can edit the name of our state, let's say opening, and change it to, for example, idle state. We can also make a transition of the same state to itself to make it loop itself and call it again and again, and this will loop the animation inside this state. Let's create a new empty state and we can, let's name it, for example, kick, or for example we can also name it, let's say, die. And we can also make a transition from any state to this die state, but it will only go to the die state when we have some sort of condition applied to it. For example, our character dies inside the game, we want these conditions to be inside our list. So let's add this condition. Let's select the parameters tab, and here let's just change this trigger name to, let's say, is dead, and here we can select our is dead trigger, and whenever this trigger gets true, then our state will go to this die state.